Conker's Bad Fur Day is easily one of my favorite games of all time. It's so humorous and messed up at the same time that it's a wonder how it didn't mentally scar me at age 5. Conker's Bad Fur Day wasn't always the mature rated game we've come to know and love, however. It actually went through a number of changes and redesigns before becoming the big game that made a bunch of adults and children sing along to a giant pile of crap. Conker's first exposure to the video game industry was in Rare's Diddy Kong Racing for the Nintendo 64, and this spark would go on to become the foundation for what would be the Conker series, starting with Conker's Pocket Tales on the Game Boy Color. Conker's Pocket Tales was much more friendlier than the N64 counterpart. Pocket Tales had a very simple plot. You played as Conker, who had his birthday presents and his girlfriend Barry stolen by this evil acorn, and it was your job to bring him back. Conker on the Nintendo 64 took on the name Conker's Quest and was revealed at E3 1997. It was going to feature a very similar plot to Conker's Pocket Tales. Conker's housewarming presents would be stolen by a group of hoodlums once again, along with his friends, and it would be up to Conker and Barry to save the day. The presents were scattered across 4 different worlds that you'd have to explore to find the presents and your friends. In Conker's Quest, you'd be able to play as both Conker and Barry. Conker's levels would be more traditional collectible platformers like you would see in games like Banjo-Kazooie, while the Barry levels were more strategic and puzzle-based. There was even a split-screen multiplayer deathmatch mode and a co-op single-player mode. During development, Conker's Quest went through a number of changes, including a name change to 12 Tales Conker 64 in North America. After 12 Tales Conker 64 was announced, many people called it just another rare collectible platformer featuring a lot of cute animals. Many members of the press called it a lesser version of Banjo-Kazooie, which at the time was going to be released later that summer. Upon hearing this criticism, Rare decided to completely redesign Conker from just being another cute rare platformer to something much different, and that's how Conker's Bad Fur Day was born. A year went by with no word of what was to become of Conker's Quest or 12 Tales Conker. In summer of 1999, Rare sent this press image of Conker having a quote-unquote Bad Fur Day. The image sent to members of the press was actually just a Photoshop version of the Conker 64 promotional art. This press image would be the first teaser for Conker's Bad Fur Day. In the year 2000, Rare announced Conker's Bad Fur Day, a redesigned 12 Tales Conker 64 targeted toward an adult audience with crude humor. Conker went from being the cute lovable squirrel to being a drunk money loving squirrel, and Barry went from her cute design to a much more sexualized looking version of Lola Bunny. The game was seen so inappropriate by many companies that KB Toys even banned the game from their store shelves, and Nintendo Power even neglected from ever mentioning the fact that the game existed. It's because of this that Conker's Bad Fur Day was, for the most part, a commercial failure, coming out towards the end of the Nintendo 64 lifecycle with very little promotion. The game overall sold about 55,000 units. Despite its bad sales, the game was praised by many critics, and even has an overall Metacritic score of 92 right now. Conker's Bad Fur Day has a lot of unused material in addition to its previous game design change. There's a couple of cutscenes that didn't make it into the final version of the game. However, there was a demo ROM leaked of Conker's Bad Fur Day that released a bunch of unused cutscenes. One of the cutscenes was from a chapter called It's War, that was mostly the same as the final build, except one of the soldier squirrels is holding a walkie-talkie. In another cutscene where you save Private Rodent, 2 other squirrels are tied up next to Rodent, and they both die while they plead for their lives, a much darker version of the final cutscene. One of the darkest scrap cutscenes was the experimenting cutscene, where 2 teddies are doing a live dissection of a squirrel soldier. The cutscene was replaced by Rare via the request of Nintendo, with the cutscene of the teddies just having a conversation instead. The cutscene where Conker hatches a dinosaur is also different from the final build. A lot of textures, animations, and sound effects are missing. In the demo version of the Into the Vertex cutscene, a lot of the cutscene is incomplete. It's missing either music, voice acting, sound effects, or even animations. In addition to the cutscenes, there's a lot of unused models, such as a walkie-talkie, a laptop, a candle holder, a bug net, a dirty money bag, and even a Pikachu tail. Yeah, a Pikachu tail. The Pikachu tail model was actually part of an unused cutscene from the demo in the Bomb Run chapter. The cutscene was most likely removed because Nintendo wouldn't want to have a cutscene where Pikachu is physically abused. After the release of Conker's Bad Fur Day, Rare began development on a sequel called Conker's Other Bad Fur Day. The game would take place after the events of the first game, where Conker spent all of his treasure on beer, parties, and hookers. He was thrown into prison and was facing execution, and that's where the game would begin. You started off playing as Conker trying to escape from the highest point of a prison tower. Barry would also make a return, however she'd come back as a Terminator hunting down Conker. In 2002, Microsoft bought Rare, and instead of releasing Conker's Other Bad Fur Day, they had Rare remake the first game for Xbox, titled Conker Live and Reloaded. The game would feature updated graphics with support for Xbox Live. In 2008, it was announced that plans to ever release Conker's Other Bad Fur Day were cancelled. It wasn't until 2012 that Chris Saber, who was the project leader of the Conker series, revealed more specific details about the plot of the cancelled sequel. There was going to be a giant space poop called Cthulhu Poop, or Cthulhu Poop, who was the main villain of the game. Greg's childhood and hatred of cats would be explained, and Conker would have an evil doppelganger who you'd be able to play as. Birdie would have also have died, and the game would have ended with a bittersweet note like the original game. That was all that was ever mentioned of the sequel, and in the same year Chris Saber was fired from Microsoft for having different views from the company. There were rumors of a prototype of Conker's Quest existing because of a 2001 interview on Amazon.com with an unnamed Rare designer. In the interview, the designer mentioned that there was a Conker's Quest demo in Rare's archive that no one would ever get to play. In 2009, Kevin O'Connor, the founder of Assembler Games, claimed to know someone who had a copy of Conker's Quest and who was willing to sell it, but only for $14,000. It was said that a man from Bathgate, Scotland named Richard, that went by the online alias Nintendo Mad, bought the prototype for $12,000 but shortly died after at the age of 31. For 2 years, that was all that was heard of the prototype until 2011, when Brandon Williams, an N64 collector, purchased a batch of development cartridges for the N64 from a former Rare employee that was supposed to destroy the cartridges but instead saved them. One of the cartridges was labeled Conker 64 only, and it was a special cartridge that acted like a transfer tool. Rare employees would connect this cart to their N64 dev unit and their PC, and with the cable they would transfer the game from the PC to the N64 temporarily while the cable was connected. Once the cable was disconnected, the cartridge was wiped and all the data was back on the PC. So although the cartridge that William bought did at one point have the cartridge demo in it, it no longer did, and would need a PC from back in Conker's archives for it to work. For a while, it looked like that was the end of Conker, with Microsoft putting Rare to work on connected venture games. However, that all changed at E3 2013 when Project Spark was announced. Project Spark was to feature Conker as a creation option for people to use in creating their games in Project Spark, destroying the dreams of many fans with the quote,
"Almost 10 years without a new game. Guess we'll have to make our own."
The last time we heard about Conker was in March 2015 when Microsoft released a new trailer for Project Spark's Conker's DLC, titled Conker's Big Reunion, taking place 10 years after the events of Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is set to release this year on April 23rd. And that's the history of the beta of Conker's Bad Fur Day, and a pretty crazy development cycle for one of the greatest games in history. Thanks very much for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The Conker series is a game series I've always really loved, so I wanted to make a video on it, but if you have your own recommendations for a game beta you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments below and I might make a video on it. Once again, thanks for all your guys' support. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like rating, subscribe, and share with your friends. While you're clicking that subscribe button, follow me on these social networks to keep up to date with me outside of YouTube. And if you want to play video games with me, go ahead and add me on these gaming networks. If you enjoyed this video, check out the last one I did. It was a video on my PlayStation Vita collection, so if you're interested in seeing what games I'm sort of into right now, go ahead and check out that video. Once again, thank you all for your support, and I'll see you guys in my next video. See ya!